Hi, thanks for joining us on the Fishing Magazine television series. This week we're at Bull Shoals Lake for the 2001 Bull Shoals Pro-Am. It's chilly outside and the fishing's tough, but we're sure that the Central Pro-Am anglers will come through. You'll see what we mean when we come back right after this.
Of bass fishing, there is no other lake like Bull Shoals. When conditions are right, it can produce monster bass. But for much of the year, anglers consider themselves lucky to catch a limit of 2.5 pounders because, quite simply, it's not easy to sneak up on trophy bass when the water is so clear you can see the bottom 30 feet down. Just look at the results of Pro-Ams held on Bull Shoals in the past. If you gave yourself two 12.5-pound limits and took your chances against the field, you would have won 3 times and been in the running every year but 2. The problem is, nobody's going to give you a 12.5-pound limit. On Bull Shoals, you have to get it the old-fashioned way. You have to earn it. This year, the Central Pro-Am anglers are coming to Bull Shoals the first weekend in March. And at the end of a bitter cold winter, conditions are tough, with a capital T. But more than 200 of Mid-America's best anglers from 6 states have braved the chilly weather for the first tournament of 2001, Central Pro-Am's 12th tournament season. The morning of day 1 is chilly and overcast, with air and water temperature both in the low 40s. And if the tournament itself goes anything like practice, it could be a very long day indeed. One angler who always ranks among the favorites in any tournament on Bull Shoals is Ranger boat employee Lou Treat. Back in the 1950s, Treat's father used to be a fishing guide with Ranger founder Forrest Wood, and he was one of the best. Treat evidently learned a lot from his father because he's already won 2 Central Pro-Am events, and he ranks among the circuit's all-time top 10 with over 1,000 pounds of bass caught. The weekend before this event, Treat paired with Butch Still to win a team tournament on Bull Shoals, and today he's following the same patterns. Almost immediately, he starts catching fish, and if he can keep this up, he's certain to be among the Day 1 leaders. Another one of the favorites here is Butch Still, who's also a Ranger employee. Like Treat, Still has already won 2 Central Pro-Am tournaments, including the 1998 Ranger Mercury Pro-Am Championship. When it comes to fishing with light line, Still is one of the best. And just as he has for the past 3 weeks, he's catching bass by fishing a smoke and red flake tube bait more than 30 feet deep on 6-pound line. Unlike many other Pro-Am anglers who are making long runs up the White River to the Theodosia and Lead Hill areas, Still is concentrating on deep brush piles and channel swings near Bull Shoals boat dock. Patiently, he works the lure back to the boat, and so far this morning, his patience is being rewarded. By mid-morning, he already has his limit. Like Treat and Still, Mike Crosby is a Ranger employee who fishes Bull Shoals a lot and is a Central Pro-Am regular. This morning, Crosby and amateur partner David White are fishing shallow for bass that are moving in to spawn, and they've accidentally located a school of crappie. So far, they're catching them one right after another, and if this were a crappie tournament, Crosby would be at the front of the pack. Unfortunately, though, it's not. And so Crosby keeps hoping he can improve on the 2 keeper bass he already has. Chuck Krim retired from Major League Baseball 6 years ago and has been pursuing a career as a professional angler. In that time, he's found that it's often easier to get a hitter to chase a hard slider than a finicky bass to chase anything. But today, he's one of the few Pro-Am anglers with a solid pattern. Krim and amateur partner Steve Meitz are working jigs and grubs through submerged treetops in 70 feet of water. Now, fishing like this doesn't suit everyone, but so far, Krim and Meitz both have their limits, and Krim is already starting to call. When the Pro-Am anglers return to Bull Shoals boat dock for the afternoon weigh-in, Mike Taylor takes the early amateur division lead with 2.35 pounds. Then Curtis Stowers, one of 4 Central Illinois anglers who drove over 8 hours to fish this tournament, comes to the scales.
Looky here. We got pretty fortunate. Amateur division, this may be your new leader. 5.35 pounds.
A short time later, Joe Switzer brings in this solid 3-pounder to take over the amateur division big bass lead. He's soon passed by Bill Glenn with a 3.2-pound largemouth. But they all have to move aside once Steve Mintz comes to the scales.
Let's see, looky here, pretty good bag of fish. Yes, sir. 10.05 pounds, a new leader in the amateur division, ladies and gentlemen.
In the pro division, Butch Still is one of the first to weigh in, and he's got a sack to be reckoned with.
You get 5 today, Butch?
I think I caught 10 keepers today.
You caught 10 keepers today. Will they be there tomorrow?
I hope.
He hopes they'll be there tomorrow. We've got a limit of fish. You're going to have a new leader right here. 11.60 pounds. Put your hands together, Butch Still.
Roger Dial comes in with this 4.5-pounder to take the pro division big bass lead. But it's his only keeper, and he can't overtake Still. Neither can Lou Treat, who comes in with 3 keepers that total 5.95 pounds. Then comes pro division rookie Kendall Trainer.
7.40 pounds, 7.40 pounds. That puts you right on up there about second place.
Next is Pete Winters. Winters won the 1996 Pro-Am Championship on Bull Shoals, and he proves he's still got the touch with 8.35 pounds. A short time later, Chuck Krim comes to the scales.
You've got a bag of fish also.
Yeah, I got 5.
He's got 5, and he's got a little smile on his face. Will they beat 11.60 pounds?
No.
They're not going to go that much. That's what Butch Steele has. He's in the lead.
Maybe tomorrow.
We've got 5 right here. They're going to get up there close. 10.15 pounds for Chuck Krim. Good job, sir.
Jim Akins moves into contention with a limit weighing 7.85 pounds. But just when Still's day 1 lead seems secure, Lynn Luther comes to the scales.
Well, our men say there's a new leader. Not going to be quite, guys. 10.50 pounds. That's second place in the pro division right now.
At the end of the first day, Butch Still sits atop the Lunker Lure Pro-Am scoreboard with 11.6 pounds. Lynn Luther and Chuck Krim are right on his heels in second and third place, with Preston Havens and Pete Winters rounding out the top 5. In the rest of the top 10, Jim Akins leads the way in 6th place, but Pro-Am rookie Kendall Trainer and veterans Jackie Davis, Lou Treat, and Larry Herndon are close behind. In the amateur division, Steve Mintz holds a commanding lead with 10.05 pounds. Curtis Stowers is nearly 5 pounds behind in 2nd place, with Charlie Bogard, Keith Bray, and Bill Glenn completing the top 5. In the rest of the top 10, it's close all the way, as a mere 5 ounces separates Kenny Keeter in 6th place from Steve Plank and Mike Purse in 10th. Stay tuned for exciting Day 2 action. We'll be right back. 4, which means that the Pro-Am anglers know they're facing another chilly ride. But they all know that with fishing as tough as it is, almost everyone has a chance to win with a good second day. Day 1 leader Butch Still returns to the spot that produced his Day 1 limit. He finds fellow competitor Al Ranji already there, but Ranji, in a gesture of good sportsmanship, leaves the spot to Still. Almost immediately, Still finds the bass are still there and still biting. Within moments, he gets another strike. If he can keep this up, Still could be headed for his 3rd Central Pro-Am title. Chuck Krim has returned to the Deep Bluff end where he caught his limit on Day 1. By mid-morning, Krim already has his limit, but they're all small Kentucky bass, and he's not certain they'll be enough to overtake Still. Krim has positioned his boat in over 120 feet of water and is casting his jig into over 70 feet of water and working it back through submerged treetops. Now, many anglers would be out of their element fishing at such depths, but Krim honed his bass fishing skills in the deep, clear waters of California and Nevada, and he's perfectly at ease.
There he is. Feels like a pretty decent fish. This one ought to call that 12-incher out for me. I hope. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Yes.
Pete Winters was in 5th place at the end of Day 1, but so far his day is not going well. By mid-morning, he is yet to catch a keeper, and unless his fortunes change dramatically, his chances for victory are rapidly diminishing. Kendall Trainer isn't fishing as deep as Krim, but he's located bass on a steeply sloping bank in the same area. Trainer has never fished a Central Pro-Am event, but he's already made his presence known. On day one, he was one of only 7 Pro Division anglers to come in with a limit. Like Krim, Trainer has located a bluff with submerged standing timber. That seems to be making the difference. But his day one limit weighed only 7.5 pounds, and he'll need bigger fish than this to overtake Still and the other leaders. By late morning, Butch still has only 3 keepers, and it's clear his deep pattern is not going to produce the way it did on day one. So Still switches to a jerkbait and begins working areas he knows hold bass at this time of year. But today, it's no-go. And unless he can find a way to come in with another limit, this one's going right down to the wire. When the Pro-Am anglers return to Bull Shoals Boat Dock for the final weigh-in, the amateur division race is in turmoil. First day leader Steve Mintz has come in without a fish, and now he must wait as the other competitors make a run at his lead. The first to do so is Steve Plank.
Got a smile on your face.
I got 3.
He's got 3, but you had some weight yesterday. Let's see what we've got. Going to push right on up there. You may end up with a check, young man. 6.50 pounds today. Last hang on and see what we're going to total out here. Doesn't look like it'll take over the lead, but you're going to be right up there in the hunt. At 9.20 pounds, Steve Plank.
By the time the third flight arrives, it's clear that rookie Curtis Stowers is the only competitor who can overtake Mintz, but he'll need nearly 5 pounds to do it.
Let's see here. Hey, we might get, this guy may get in the money. He's got one here today that weighs 1.90 pounds.
In the Pro Division, Jim Akins comes in with 4 bass that weigh a total of 6.9 pounds and jumps into the lead with 14.75 pounds. Next is reigning Pro-Am champion Toby Hartzell.
You got a bag load over there?
No.
Not today. He says it's better than he thought he was going to have. It looks like going to weigh 7.40 pounds today.
Then Chuck Krim comes to the scales.
How many fish have you got, Chuck?
I got 5.
He's got a limit over there. Look out, Jim Akins. Look out. We've got a limit here. 8.80 pounds. We've got a new leader in the Pro Division. 18.95 pounds, Chuck Krim.
Right behind Krim is Kendall Trainer.
Kendall's got a bag of fish here that weigh in at 6.15 pounds.
Finally, it all comes down to first day leader Butch Still.
You had the lead yesterday at 11.60 pounds. We've got a leader out here. Chuck Krim is taking over here at 18.95 pounds. You know, are we gonna? Oh, he's got 4 fish. May get close here, ladies and gentlemen. Looky here. Oh, maybe 6.85 pounds.
Still can't do it. And Chuck Krim wins his first Central Pro-Am tournament with 18.95 pounds, the lowest winning weight in Central Pro-Am history. Still finishes a half-pound behind, with Jim Akins, Kendall Trainer, and Lynn Luther rounding out the top 5. In the rest of the top 10, it looks like the Central Pro-Am Hall of Fame, with 5 former title holders. Troy Akins heads the list in 6th place with 12.3 pounds, followed by Jackie Davis, Toby Hartzell, Preston Havens, and Lou Treat. In the amateur division, Steve Mintz holds on to win his first Pro-Am title with 10.05 pounds. Steve Plank jumps into 2nd place with 9.2 pounds, followed by Curtis Stowers, Sean White, and Charlie Bogard. In the rest of the top 10, Mike Smith leads the way in 6th place, with Keith Bray, Cameron Roth, Kyle Triplett, and Diego Segui close behind. Stay tuned for tournament winning tips from Chuck Krim. We'll be right back. It's now time for Tips from the Top, techniques you can use to catch more fish. Brought to you by Ranger Boats, where they still build them one at a time.
Well, I came into the tournament really with only 2 baits in mind, and that was a Rogue and really a gray grub. I normally throw a gray grub this time of year, but my main pattern I was going to try and get on was a rogue bite. Well, I was averaging 2 bites a day on a rogue in practice, and I really thought that it was going to be kind of an iffy tournament. I'm sure everybody did coming into this thing, that everybody's having a hard time catching fish. I started throwing a rogue. First day of the tournament, I caught 2 keepers right away on it. My partner caught a keeper right away on it. But all the time, I kept my eye on the spot that I located some Kentuckys on a point that I brought up with a rogue in practice on Thursday. Well, while I was fishing those rogue fish in another spot, I kept my eye on this other spot, and I kept thinking, well, I need to get there, because I knew just weighing in a limit would be good in this tournament. I used a white 3/8 ounce hair jig, which is actually made out of a synthetic hair. It's not made out of marabou or bucktail. A guy at the fly shop turned me on to it, and I made these things up last year. And being a tournament fisherman, you have to gather all the information you can. And before the tournament, I'd heard that they're eating the hair jig better than the grub. So I put my hair jig on with a grub trailer, and that didn't seem to feel right. So I went ahead and took that off and just fished a 3/8 ounce white hair jig. No trailer or anything on it. I almost felt like I was crappie fishing, but it got me down to that deeper water quicker, and it just felt right. When things just feel right, you have to go with it in this sport, and the jig just felt right. It fell quick for me because it didn't have the trailer on the back of it. I was able to get down to the fish quicker with it, and the fish had no problem eating it. When I was fishing about 50 to 60 foot over 120 foot of water, my boat was in 120 foot of water, and I was fishing a ridge in Theodosia. And this ridge had an abundance of wood on it that it was really hard to find, because I looked for a lot of that wood on the end of a bluff end, and I could not find it. I had one area that I really felt that would have fish on it, because usually when we try and catch Kentuckys this time of year, they'll be on a bluff end with wood. And the whole key was ticking the tops of that wood as it fell off that break into about 120 foot of water. I would throw the jig out, let the jig go all the way down the bottom. If it got looped on a piece of wood or a tree, I lift it back up off the tree, and I drop the thing straight back down again, because I knew that the fish were on the ridge. As soon as I'd swim that jig to the ridge, I would then again shake. As soon as I felt the wood on the edge of the ridge, I'd start shaking that jig. And as soon as I started to shake that jig, they'd eat it. I had to be in line. I had to actually be in line with my line with that bait for it to fall exactly where I could feel it, because it was such a subtle bite, because it was a light jig and it was deep water, and all you'd feel would be a small tick. You could not drag it. You couldn't put your rod fit down and feel your bait. It had to be fished very vertical and very in line with your bait.
Congratulations to Chuck Krim on his first Central Pro-Am victory. He's paid his dues, but now he's proved that he can go from being a major leaguer in one sport to a big leaguer in another. Thanks for being with us. We'll see you next week on the Fishin' Magazine television series.
The Fishin' Magazine television series is brought to you by Ranger Boats, where they still build them one at a time, so you can fish hard, run strong, and rest easy. Bass Pro Shops, where you get more outdoors for your money. ADM Alliance Nutrition, committed to excellence in animal nutrition. Lunker Lure and Hog Collar, quality builds confidence, and confidence catches fish. Motor Guide Trolling Motors, take on the world. Pinpoint Electronics, find fish where you never knew they existed. And Central Pro-Am Association, the leader in Pro-Am bass tournaments. For more information about subscribing to Fishin' Magazine or joining Central Pro-Am Association, call 1-800-349-5316 or visit our website at www.centralproam.com.